Hey everybody, how are you today? Oh my gosh, I have been looking forward to this. I am so excited to be having a coffee chat with my friend Laurie. I'm going to bring her on in a second. You guys, if you want, go get some tea or coffee. I know here in Michigan it is so cold, and I am not really a cold weather person for the most part. But this time of year, I love it. I love it because it's just kind of snuggly. So I wish I could say it's good to see you. I wish I could see all of you, but I can't. But whoever's on, welcome. And if you're watching the replay, this is going to be a great conversation. So I'm going to bring my friend Laurie. There you are.
Hi, Marlo.
How are you?
Good. It worked.
It worked. And I have my friend Michelle in Oklahoma. She's watching. And I mentioned her, I asked her if she would go on and let me know if she can't hear me. Because when I interviewed Kate, my friend Kate, you couldn't hear me. And I didn't realize it until afterwards. So we're covering all of our bases this morning.
There you go. Well, you're coming in loud and clear here.
Oh, good. So good to see you. Everybody,
You as well.
This is my friend, Laurie Powers. We just met this year. Mm-hmm. What a blessing. We met you. Look what I'm drinking out of. My bottom.
I have a message for you.
What does it say? Good morning, gorgeous. Oh, your shirt. You're so coordinated.
Didn't mean that.
I love you are, and your walls. Oh my gosh, you have a whole salmon peach color going.
Oh my goodness. Well, it works.
My Barn 45 cup, and thank you, Joy Lee. I'm drinking out of this because this is where we met. Well, you know that. I'm telling everybody else. There was something about you when I met you and your sister. You guys have these infectious smiles, and I was like, there's something special about them. And sure enough, you and I have had a chance to get to know each other, and it's just been a delight. So
yes, it has. Absolutely. I've enjoyed getting to know you as well.
I love it. Well, I want to talk about whatever comes up today, but what I would really love to focus on is your book. I've been mentioning it. I've been talking to my friends about it, and I put it on Facebook the other day. This is Laurie's book, What Once Was Hidden. I've been reading it and I love it. And I want to talk about a couple of my favorite stories. But why don't you start by telling us, like, where did the idea come from for your book?
Well, I've been a journaler since I was in 7th grade. Somehow I discovered that there's a great way to express yourself is through writing, and that just stuck with me. So I decided one day, you know, there's a lot of stories in there that I just wondered, would these benefit anyone else? Mm-hmm. And so I spent about 2.5 years, went through my journals, which is so funny because the very first one I have, I think, is like Holly Hobby. For those of you who remember Holly Hobby, it's just a little square journal.
Oh my God.
To now.
Everybody our age had that journal because that just made me flashback. I do.
Right?
Yeah. I think my cousin Andrea had that too. If she's on, I wonder. But anyway, yes.
Yes. And they were like, you know what, like about this big. Well, now I write in one about that big because what ended up happening is I decided that because I was living through the stories that are in my journals, that maybe while I was in the midst of those different stories, I didn't see something beyond what I was living. So after I went through and took pictures of everything I thought could be developed into something inspirational, I said, all right, God, what did I miss that you want me to see? So then I went through a second process, hence the reason my title is What Once Was Hidden, because these were just journals that I've been storing in a hope chest. I have all of them. They're still in there, and for my eyes only to see. And then I realized there was things that were hidden in my stories that were his story. So I combined those two things and said, God, just reveal what you want to reveal, and tied those together to what he was doing in those stories. So that's how the book came to be.
I love that. You were looking at life from one perspective, and then you stepped back and went, wait a minute, this is all, it all threads together, and they aren't our stories. I mean, it's our life. It seems like it all belongs to us, but it doesn't. And there's a thread that's I love that. It's just so important. And that's so cool that you saw that. Not everybody sees that. I mean, I know there was many years in my life I didn't see that there was a thread and there was a reason for everything. And I love how they all fit together in your book. Have you ever read the book? There's a book by Francine Rivers called The Scarlet Thread.
I have not read that one. I've read her another one that she wrote, Redeeming Love, which, oh, if you haven't read that, if anybody's listening, you haven't read that book, it's amazing.
You know, I need to read that one. I've read a couple of her others, but that The Scarlet Thread is just about a woman that's going through a really hard time, and she's just angry, and then she realizes the scarlet thread. It's just really, really good. So I love, and so your book is just so, I've been loving it. And I was saying on my Facebook Live that I love the way that you structured it, because I love to read. I really do, but I feel like I get shiny object syndrome. And I'm like, what's going on? And then I don't finish. And so your book, I could pick it up. I could take it with me while I was waiting for the girls to come out from volleyball and read a story and stop and think about it and really chew on it and see how it applied to my life. And it just, I've been really able to absorb it and really appreciate it. What prompted you to write this book at this point in your life? The journaling you started in 7th grade. Why now with the book?
Well, I had a photography business for 14 years. I just need a creative outlet. It's just part of my DNA. I mean, we have a creative God and he gave me that gene. So I love being creative, and I love sharing that creativity as a gift with others. So after I closed down my photography business, I was already thinking, okay, what next, God? You know, what do you have in store for me? And I'd had people encouraging me along the way, you really need to write a book. In particular, I have she'll laugh if she's listening, but I have a sister-in-law who kept saying, you know, you need to write this book. Because I'd say, Tina, she's an author as well. And I said, I have an idea. And she kept saying, you know, you need to write the book, you know. And then I had other people that would say things like, and she as well, you know, when you write something to me, it just touches me somewhere deep in my soul, or it makes me cry. And I just thought, well, isn't that how everybody is? You know, when you write something from the heart, doesn't that touch people? But then people started saying, you have a gift, you should use your gift. So for the longest time, I was stuck in fear, because it's a little daunting to take your journals and put them out there in public.
Yeah.
You know, and I thought, this is exposing, you know, but I thought, you know, either I trust that God has me or I don't. And I feel like, you know, he was the biggest prompter, and he was saying, listen, I put you in my story. Now take it, your story, connect them, and go share, you know, don't let fear keep you from doing this. Get unstuck out of your fear. So through Barn 45 and meeting people like yourself and Joy, and just some of the women that we've rubbed shoulders with at Barn 45, and seeing each of these women saying, you know, I'm not going to live in fear any longer. I'm going to step out in my purpose. Just kind of inspired me, even though it was already in the making. It inspired me to push the go button. And I feel like it was the right timing. I mean, this has been an interesting year, you know, turned 60 this year. And I thought, you know what, girlfriend, you have a limited amount of time. Let's do something here that, you know.
We were all so excited when you launched your book. We were just like, oh my gosh, it's so excited to see it in person. We were all talking about it the other night when we were all at dinner. What would you say was the biggest, I know you just said it's, you know, it's a lot putting your own personal stories out, but what would you say was the biggest fear maybe holding you back for a while?
Well, that's a really good question, Marlo. I would say listening to the wrong voices. And you know how Tara just did that series about you can be in, you know, a camp of truth, or you can be in the camp of lies. That started to resonate with me a while back. I started to think, you know, I can believe all the lies, you know, you're not good enough. It's not perfect enough, you know, as if, you know, we can have perfection this side of heaven, you know.
I know.
You know, all those things, line. You know.
I like that. Just to remember that.
Yeah. And even like Joy, you know, Joy's always saying, you know, Joy, who for those of you who don't know, is the co-owner of Barn 45, wonderful ministry. That's just blessed so many women, including myself.
Unbelievable.
She's constantly saying, don't let comparison be what you use as your measuring stick, And so I started thinking, I just don't know if I measure up, all these things. And I finally just felt like I got to a place where I thought, you know what, this isn't about you, Laurie. It's about God. And, I feel like he spoke in my spirit and said, this is my story through you.
Mm-hmm.
Don't worry about what happens after it comes out. Let me take care of that.
Right.
Just be obedient. Just be obedient and do what I'm asking you to do, and let me take care of the rest. Nothing else should matter to you, except being obedient. So I thought, all right, how do you ignore that? I just couldn't ignore it anymore. So that was one of my biggest fears. The second one was, as you're going through and reading, you'll see there's stories that were times that were really hard for me. Some of my stories, are coming from some of my deepest heartbreaks, and then some of them are coming from some places of humor. But many of the stories are about people that are still in my life. And so I didn't want to, I guess I didn't want to do a discredit to their, or defamation of character or anything like that. But I felt like the way I wrote my stories, I felt like that was protected. I felt like God showed me how to get around that and showed me a way to still express, here's some of my hard times.
That is a great point. There are so many authors that I know, and anybody that's looking to write a book, when you have stories that involve other people, that's you've done it in a very classy way, because it's not always, the other side isn't always our story to tell, but then there's a way that you can do it, and you've done a great job. You did
Thank you.
Thank you. And I think that's a great message that you're sharing for people. I know we have the holidays right now, but then here comes the new year, and people have a lot of goals and dreams, and just talking about fear and putting a label on that, and look at you, you're on the other side of it. Your book is sitting right here in front of me. And it's just a reoccurring theme all of the time, is limited beliefs, people believing, because that's what I was going to ask you. Is this your first book?
Yes.
Yeah. So I was going to ask you if this is your first book, because I wondered if there was something that went through your mind that said, I'm not an author. Other people are authors. I can't I can't call myself an author. Did that happen for you, that you thought it was just something that other people could do, but it wasn't something that you would do? Or is that not the case?
I think having the title author, it still doesn't really, people like when we were at dinner the other night and I was talking about one of the biggie things that were going on in my life, and everybody's like, oh, I think it was you that said, oh, I thought you were going to say your book. That wasn't even on my radar. I was more thinking about the things that were happening, with my mom being in a nursing home and different things like that had just been more what life was consuming for me. So I've always felt I called myself a writer, but I never thought of myself as an author. And it's funny because I did the same thing with my photography business. I thought of myself as someone who takes pictures, but not as people would always say, well, you're the professional photographer. And I would always have this thought in the back of my head, well, anybody could do this, and then I know. So I think I had to come to a place where I had to realize, that God gifts us in different ways. And that's why he calls us the body. And to just embrace what it is that he's allowed me to be, that's who he is, I mean, I just love that he's a creative God, and that's the one gene that he decided to grow in me.
I love what you just said, that he's a creative God. I haven't said those exact words, but what I've loved, I know from my journey, is that God reaches us all in a unique way. And I realized he had to, I've said it a million times, I didn't want to know about God. I didn't want to even be around people that talked about Jesus or God, but he reached me in he knows I'm a creative. He created me. He reached me in such a creative way. Mm-hmm. I didn't build that relationship, by going through the motions of anything. It was in a real creative way. So I love that. And it sounds the same for you. And I learned a lot about you, even more at dinner the other night, that you are such a creative. I mean, I could talk, a lot right now about all the things I learned about you, but I didn't realize you are just so creative in so many different ways. And I love how he showed up in your life and just proved the fact that the acronym of fear is false evidence appearing real. It shows up, and fear shows up, and just it gives us all the reasons that we should just not believe that we are capable of doing it. And it's so not true. So yay for you following your heart.
Yes. I think one of the verses, and I talk about this in my book, one of my verses that has been one that I've loved since I first became a believer in Jesus is Psalm 37:4. And it says, delight yourself in the Lord, and he will give you the desires of your heart. And there was a period of time where I spent time really thinking about that. I was thinking, well, what is the desire of my heart?
Right.
What is it that I really desire? And what was really interesting is I felt as I brought that before God and asked him, would you reveal that to me? That he took me right back to this place. I thought he was going to tell me, this is what I want you to do. This is who I want you to be. But he gave me this freedom. And that we talk a lot about freedom, that there's freedom in Christ. And for those of you who feel like religion feels like bondage, I'm not talking about religion. I'm talking about relationship.
Right.
And when you have a relationship with your Creator, what's really beautiful about that is that you will find a freedom that you've never experienced before. To be more authentically who you are, because now you're running everything the filter of who he says you are. And I even talk about that in my book. Go in front of a mirror and just stand there and ask this question as you look at yourself, and say this to yourself: the truest thing about you is what God says about you, and then go find out what he says about you.
Oh, such good advice. Because it's so practical.
It is.
It's not a quote unquote religious statement or something that you feel like you have to do. It is just, that is awesome. That is such great advice. I hope that everybody watching actually does that, because there's a beautiful gift in every single one of us. And there's so many people in the world that just don't believe that. They don't believe they're loved, that they're worthy. Unbelievable. Right. Okay, this was not planned. I have this bookmarked here to share my favorite story and what you were just talking about. Okay, on page 70 of your book is Left in the Dark, and it's one of my favorite. I just love to get your thoughts about this. Now wait a minute, where did it go? Wait. Love that. Hold on. Left in the Dark. I love that one. Wait. Oh wait, no, Left in the Dark. Okay, I dog-eared that one, but the other one about darkness is A Deliberate Walk into the Darkness. That's page 12.
Okay.
I knew that couldn't have been the one before, because I have this marked in here. I highlighted it. Okay, it's A Deliberate Walk in the Dark, and you were talking about stepping into darkness and what that would feel like and how scary. But I love what you said here. Well, first of all, I'm going to go the line before what I had marked. You were talking about John 3:19, and you said, this is the verdict. Light, which is Jesus, has come into the world, but people loved the darkness instead of the light. And you said, when Jesus calls us, I love the last line of this especially. When Jesus calls us into relationship with him, he plucks us out of our darkness. Oh, I can so relate. I'm sure so many can. He shines a light for us on the path back to light. He is called the light of the world. And what's so promising is that this is the line I love. He doesn't just get us out of our darkness. He transforms us when we step into the light. That I highlighted it. I put a mark by it. That is so, he doesn't just take us out of the darkness. I love how you worded that. He transforms us when we step into the light. And that's something that takes a choice on a person, on behalf of the person. They have to make a choice to follow that. So tell me, what are your thoughts about this story and what's your take on it?
Oh, well, the whole story is about going into a cave. It's the first time I'd ever gone into a cave. I was in Tennessee, And there was a group of us, and we were going in with one guide, the only person who had a source of light. No one else did. And the more I thought about it after we had done this, I mean, we went into the belly of this cave where it was complete and utter darkness.
Mm-hmm.
And I just remember sitting there and thinking, as I share in the book, you know, what if the person who brought us in, the guide who brought us in, is really a psycho? He knocked out the real guide and
Yeah.
took us in here, and he's going to abandon us, you know?
Yeah.
And I mean, you could see nothing. You could hear other people, but you couldn't see a thing. It was that dark. And I just thought, you know, that's so much of how we come into this world. We come in, you know, because of sin, we come in darkness.
Mm-hmm.
And we can choose to continue to live in that darkness and try to figure a way out, you know. And I just envision, if that were to have been true in that story, we would all be crawling around and getting cut up on rocks and, you know, hurting ourselves and panic. We would be in a state of panic and fear and all of these things you can think of that you would be in.
Mm-hmm.
But if you had somebody that was a light and who knew the way out of that, and you followed that and you trusted that, you can enjoy the experience.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we did. We enjoyed the experience. And actually, this whole thing that went on while we were in there was the story of creation.
Mm-hmm.
They told us the whole story of creation and coming out of light and God creating light, you know. And his entire word is a continuation of what he did in the creation.
Mm-hmm.
He gave us light physically, but then he gave us the light, you
Mm-hmm.
know. And like I say in the beginning of my book, I'm a student of the light, capital L, who
Mm-hmm.
is Jesus, you know. And when we see him and follow him, get to know him, we start to see, we get a whole new set of eyes.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what this reminded me of is, you know what? He is the only real true light. He's the one that'll lead us, and then he will transform us because you start to see things differently.
That's the word that was just popping in, because I know when you and I talked about this coffee chat, one of the keywords that was so important to you was the word hope for people. And
Mm,
just as I was thinking about that, the word transformation, they go hand in hand.
that's
If
right.
anybody is going through something in their life and they feel like they're just there, they're stuck, that's it. That's it for them. There's no joy, certainly no light they feel in their life. It is there. It is it's always there. And that brings such hope for so many people that may need it, especially this time of year. You
Right.
know, I always like to say that like the cracks in our heart, that's where Jesus's light can shine in. It is where the heartbreak is or the hopelessness, but that's where that light can also get in. And I love that
Yeah.
you are an advocate of hope for
Yes.
individuals.
You know, I was just reading in my devotion this line that I thought was so amazing. It said, God often works greater in the thorns than he does in the thrones.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I think so many times, you know, because especially with social media, we see people doing these great monumental things. And right now, I mean, I'm in a season of life where I'm rubbing shoulders with a lot of people that are in a nursing home,
Mm-hmm.
and their situation appears from the outside very hopeless.
Mm-hmm.
And yet every one of them has a story. Every single one of them has a story. And I thought, you know what they're experiencing might feel like a thorn. And I mean, I've had many thorns in my life that I've gone through really hard times, but I wouldn't trade any of them because they've made me who I am today
Mm-hmm.
and have brought me to a place of realizing that in those times, God was doing his greatest work. Now, when you're going through them, it doesn't feel pleasant and you don't want it,
Right, right.
you know, but it really is true. It really is true that he takes those and he makes beauty out of ashes. And for those out there who are in that season right now, you know, I mean, I just saw, you know, somebody yesterday was posting on Facebook about this time of the year being so hard because they're missing the loss of a loved one.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, and I'm thinking, oh, here I am. Oh, joy to the world, you know,
Yeah.
glory to the newborn king. And I thought that's still true. But there's people who are experiencing heartache during this time. And so hope is all that they've got right now. And
Yes.
so, and even in one of my own situations, that I've shared in my book, I have an estranged relationship with one of my children. And the only thing that I feel like that has kept me connected and moving forward in that relationship, whether it's going to be like how I would hope it would be, is hope. It's the only thing. And so, I talk about that a lot, about how if it wasn't for hope, I would have nothing.
Hmm.
I really feel like hope is something we all need, and we can't ever give up on, because once you do, it's really, really a dark place to be.
For sure. Yes, you can
You
feel that
know,
slippery slope
it is.
starting to go down that slippery slope, and hope is so valuable.
It is.
I want to talk about your mom, and it's funny, a group of us were praying over this conversation this morning, and I can just feel the blessings in this conversation because it's flowing so smoothly. I say that especially because of what you just talked about feeling alone. Oh no, I didn't darn it, I thought I marked it, but it's the story about when you were in kindergarten. And
Mm.
I wanted to see if you would just talk about that for a minute because first of all, I love it because you were talking about a choir concert, which is so cute because this time of year there's so many little concerts.
I was just at one last night for one of my grandkids.
And you have 7 grandkids. I want to talk about that too. But anyway, what it's just touch on that about that story. You just felt like, what if your dad and grandpa didn't come to pick you
Uh,
up?
I think that's the other story you were referring to on page, was it 48 or?
Oh, it is. That is it. I did mark it. It's 70. Left in the dark. Yeah,
What page was it?
page 70.
Yes. Yeah. It's so funny that this just really struck me when I remembered this story. But I was in kindergarten, and kindergartners don't have a long attention span, so they came up with this brilliant idea that we would go on first, and then they would take us all to our kindergarten room where we had a mat and a blanket and a pillow, and we could lay down while the rest of the concert went on, because it was kindergarten through sixth grade, I think was the school I was in, sixth or fifth grade. And so we're all laying there. And now, this is a room that we were in every single day. But now we were in it at night when it was dark. So it's a whole different room for a kindergartner, right?
Right.
And so we're laying there, and the concert was going on. And then it ended. And then the parents or grandparents all lined up, and they started coming to pick up their kids. And I started to have this awareness that there's a lot of children that are being picked up and they're going home. And I haven't seen my dad's and my grandfather's face. And I started to panic. I started to think, oh my gosh, what if I get left in this room all night in the dark and they forgot me? What if they forgot me? And right at the very tail end of all the parents was my dad and my grandpa. But there was a lady there who spotted me, and she saw me start crying. And she came over to me and wanted to know what was wrong. And I started to share with her what my fear was. What an angel she was. I think about that, that this sweet little mom just came over and recognized that something was making me upset. But then I go on and, in the story here, I just talk about how God is so different. He's just so different from that, just that fear of being forgotten,
Mm-hmm.
that he says, I'll never leave you. I'll never forsake you. I have literally written you on the palm of my hand.
Mm-hmm.
How can I forget you? And just knowing that, it just brings such a peace of mind and heart to know. And even at Barn 45, when she builds something, she always has people come and put scripture on all of the walls before the drywall goes up. And the very first time, when she was building the big barn, not the chapel, I asked her to write the words "never alone" because I wasn't there that night. And it's so true. None of us are ever alone, ever.
Right. Talk about
You
hope.
know.
That
Yes,
doesn't give people hope this time of year. I hope that they really trust that and believe that because it's the truth. That's the truth. We're
it
speaking
is.
the truth here. That's not an if, it's a for sure.
And don't confuse it with feeling lonely. There's a difference between feeling lonely and being alone.
Right. Good point.
I mean,
So
you can
true.
I mean, you can be like we've all heard, you can be in a crowd of people and you can still feel lonely. But to know that you're never alone.
And I love in that story that it was like the final hour, so to speak. Like it was creeping up to like everybody was gone, and then you were still alone. And in that last minute, you felt like, and that's what I love about the hope that we have in Jesus. Is there are people. I posted something on Facebook the other day about how it doesn't matter what you've done. You are always, there's always grace, and we're always forgiven. And it could be someone in their very last hour of their life, and they would still have that proof if they were willing to accept it, that they were not alone, and always open in giving
Yes.
grace. Mm-hmm.
The old thief on the cross, right?
Exactly, for sure. And so, what is your favorite story in your book? It's got to be hard. How do you pick? But
Well, I have ones that are my favorite because they were funny moments. So I have like my favorite humorous ones. And I told my sister, I said, so if you join in, Joan, if you're watching, here it comes. One of the stories is the Flying Fudge. I don't know if you've read that one, at the Grand Hotel with my sister. And I won't give it away because I'd rather somebody, read it. But I love this story because even though it was a humorous moment, as I reflected back on it, and God helped just illuminate that story, I realized, humorously, we kind of come to God the way that this story goes. But in the end, we can come as we are. And that he is inviting all of us to the great banquet feast.
mm-hmm.
We all have a place. We just have to take his hand. We just have to take his hand and go to the great banquet feast, and just fellowship with him.
Mm-hmm.
It's such a beautiful reminder of what's waiting for us. And so that story kind of illuminates that. And then probably the one that probably really jumps out at me in the time of heartache, there's a couple of them, but one is when I was going through, and I know many, many people experience this. I went through a period of time of extreme anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
And I had already started coming to Barn 45. And during this period of time, when I felt like a paralysis, I think many people feel a paralysis when they're going through anxiety. I felt like God spoke to me and said, go somewhere where I am.
Mm-hmm.
And immediately I thought of Barn 45 and went there and took a stroll around and was listening to the wonderful, wonderful song by Lauren Daigle called You Say. If you haven't heard this song, listeners, get this song, You Say by Lauren Daigle. It's a beautiful, beautiful song, and it's just so powerful. But I was listening to that and walking around Barn 45. And again, I don't want to give away what happened, but it's my favorite story of a collision between my earthly father and my heavenly father in a way that I did not anticipate could happen.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a moment that I'll never forget. It was so tangible that he was speaking to me through my earthly father.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't something I expected. It was an unexpected, beautiful surprise,
Mm-hmm.
In a very hard time.
Oh my gosh. That
Yeah.
is so beautiful. So again, more stories of hope. And Laurie is talking about Barn 45. We've been talking about Barn 45. And if you live in Michigan, I guess Livingston County, Oakland County, you would be doing yourself a huge anywhere. I know women that drive an hour or more to go. But I was just trying to find a picture here of Barn 45. It's in Highland. It's on White Lake Road. It's incredible. It would take me a while to find a picture, but look it up online, Barn 45, or on Facebook. They have their own page. And I know I am so, so thankful that we were talking about this at dinner with Joy. I haven't even known her a year yet. And all the ladies have meant so much to me. And it's just amazing, again, how God weaves. He just knows. And then I met her, and I found Barn 45. I met you, Sarah, Terry, Michelle, Karen, now everybody, the whole group, the little group of us. We love inspiring one another, but it's just been beautiful. So if you guys need a place to go, we're talking about hope. if you just need to be around, they should have women's programs on Tuesday nights. You will be truly, truly doing yourself a big favor. There is nothing that you feel there besides a welcoming feeling,
That's
love,
right.
openness, no judgment. It's not about religion at all. It's about it isn't about anything. You just show up as you are. You can. It doesn't even matter what you believe. You just show up and receive hope, and you always feel better when you leave. And sometimes women leave in tears, and they've just broken things and they're wide open. But that's the beginning of a process of healing on the inside, and it's just a beautiful.
Yes, it is. And, she's getting ready to kick off another series in January here called Clean, which I'm super excited about. But I just want to say, if anyone's listening that has not been to Barn 45 and you come on Tuesday night, find me, find Marlo, find Joy, find any one of us and say, hey, this is my first time. We would love to welcome you. We would
Oh,
love to have you be with us, because it's such a refreshing time of your spirit just gets so refreshed. And
100%.
it's just a beautiful place where God's spirit reigns, and you come and you come in, as Joy says, and you leave differently because you've been in God's presence, and
For
it's
sure.
so wonderful.
I loved spending time with you guys the other night, and I don't know if you mind touching on this. You were talking about your mom. Will you want to share? I would just love what you had to say about your experience there at the nursing home and what you learned about yourself in that process of being at the nursing home.
Sure. Walking into a nursing home, you see a lot of people who are very debilitated, whether it's physically or mentally, and that's true in this place.
Right.
But what started to transpire, I kind of have a soft spot. I'm kind of a softie for the elderly, and my sister always says, "You're in your element when you're here, Laurie." Because
one of the things I learned about you, Vivian, I knew that, but you were really, really sharing that from your heart. It was just so beautiful.
I love the elderly. I mean, I feel like I don't know what it is about the elderly, except that they're a lot further down the road than I am, and I thought we have a lot to learn from their lives. And so there's people in there that they don't. I think they feel like nobody sees them anymore, and so I don't know. I've kind of made it my mission to try to find out who they are, what they're about, the residents as well as those who work there. I mean, they have a really hard job. It's a hard job. It's not easy. And God bless them for what they're doing. And when I go in there, I'm always looking for somebody new to try to make eye contact with. And so, like, for example, there's this one little lady, and I haven't gotten her name yet because she's very, very quiet, but she sits by a jukebox every. Arlo, did I lose you?
I know you're. I lost you. Maybe your internet went out for a second there.
Hello,
You're back.
Marlo? I think I lost you.
Uh,
Oh, are you there?
I'm here.
Okay, I can't hear you though.
Let's see.
Okay,
Maybe hit
audio.
the mute button. Can you hear me
Are
now?
you there, Marlo?
I'm here.
Okay, I can't hear you, but I don't know. I'm sorry, a call came in. I must have forgot to do something on my phone I should have done.
That's okay. Just I'll text you. I'll text you. You can't hear me.
How do I get you?
Keep talking.
Start over?
Nope. Just keep talking. If you can hear me, you can just keep talking.
Okay, keep talking. Are you
Yep.
telling me to keep talking? Okay. Let's play some charades here.
All right.
Okay, so anyways.
Talk or talk.
Okay, me keep talking. Okay. Oh, I love technology. So anyways, she sits by this jukebox, and so she obviously loves music, and she would always be looking down. And now when I go by, I get down so that she can see me, and I always wave at her. Now when I come down that hall, because I have to go down that hall to get to my mom's room, she always sees me. Now she looks up and she does the wave. And I'm just like, oh, connection, connection. So that's the thing that's so beautiful about it, is that I just want to connect with people there. And so, and I was sharing with you guys that I'm in the process, and I don't know what will happen with this, but I'm in the process of possibly doing another book that would be maybe like a black and white photography of the nursing home world. And then I would, whoa,
Oh, I didn't
oh my
want to say
goodness.
that. Hold on.
I'm not sure what's happening here.
I don't want to
I
stop
think
here.
I'm losing you. Oh, there you are. Okay, something's going on.
She
I
can't
would
hear
like
me.
to
You
do
guys,
this
Lori can't hear me
book.
right now. She's going to keep talking.
Can you still hear me?
I can hear you. Yes.
Okay. I want to do this book that would just kind of show people these are real people, these are marginalized people, and we all live in a world with a lot of marginalized people, and people just want to know that they matter. They want to know that you see them. And so I would love to do a book called I See You. And we'll see where that goes. That's kind of what's happening. And I'm not going to be able to hear if you ask me anything, and I don't know how to correct that.
That's okay. Lori can't hear me any longer, so I think it's the
I
most.
wish I was a better lip reader.
That's okay. She can't hear me, so I'm going to end the interview. Hold on 1 second, Lori.
1 second.
And this has just been such a delight having her here, and I just want to. Gosh, I wish I knew sign language. I could say thank you. I'm not sure why she can't hear me, but that means we're supposed to end. So you know what I'm going to do? Can I call you? Do you have your phone?
I don't know what you're if you're trying to tell me.
I'm gonna say thank you to Laurie. Thank you so much. This has been such an awesome interview, and I just really appreciate her time. She'll hear this when she listens to the playback. So thank you, Laurie. You guys get her book. It's called What Once Was Hidden. I could talk to her forever because we're girlfriends, and we could just have coffee all day, but actually, yeah, this has been about 40 minutes. So I'm going to let her go. I'm going to say to you, Laurie, thank you so much. Thank you. Where there's a will, there's a way. And thank you, Laurie. And thanks all of you for watching. And I hope if you watch the replay, you receive some hope and some joy out of this. And I really pray that you all have a great Christmas season. And I want to do a Facebook Live coming up soon about what do you do when people are all cheery and happy and you just don't feel that way around the holidays. I am not, it's not Pollyanna thinking that everybody is having a wonderful holiday. I know some of you are going through a very hard time. So I'm sending love and prayers your way. And please remember what we talked about today, that there is always hope. There is always light. And if your heart's feeling broken, a friend of mine reminded me of a saying that I've said recently, that it's about recycled light. Sometimes the light goes in, it attaches to the heartache, and that love of Jesus comes out in a recycled way, where maybe you will help somebody else with your story, just like this book, or you will see the joy and the hope on the other side of adversity. So wishing you all a beautiful Christmas. And Laurie, thank you so much. She will see that when when she watches this. So mwah.
Love you.
Love you too.
Bye, Marlo.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I was trying to show her family. I'm going to post a picture of her beautiful family, her 7 grandchildren, and her husband of 35 years. I'm going to post that in the comments. Okay. I will talk to you all later. Bye.